All right, rewriting Dawntrail. Let's get into it. Hello, Void. I am Eldon, and today I am here to rewrite Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail. This is something I've been thinking about since Dawntrail released. I mean, we can all agree Dawntrail isn't the best 14 expansion. Personally, I don't think it's bad, but it certainly doesn't rank amongst the top of the expansions. It's probably like second to worst bad one after ARR, but we can put that all aside because what Dawntrail does have is a structurally compromised plot that's so full of obvious things to fix. I just couldn't help but plan a rewrite of it since basically I started playing. And now, after so long, all of those thoughts are crystallized and I am ready to put pen to paper, so to speak, or here, slide to slideshow. Now, before we begin, there's going to be a disclaimer. This rewrite of Dawntrail is not a market substitute. Don't use this as an excuse to like re-radicalize yourself and go spread hate to other places. Dawntrail exists, okay? It happened, it is what it is. If you want to replace it in your brain with things I said or things you want to believe, that's fine. Just don't go somewhere else and like tweet at a developer. That's not cool. If you want to discuss in the comments below. Actually, I encourage you to leave a comment, like, subscribe even. I do like seeing the number go up. Why can't we make this a market substitute Dawntrail? I do want to talk about that because realistically, rewrites are kind of an intellectually shallow thing. So I just want to discuss that a little bit at the start. Hindsight 2020, I know it's kind of a cliche, but realistically, we can all see the mistakes that were made in Dawntrail. We can all see what happened and what went wrong, but in the process of making it, you can't really see that. You can't see what's going to go wrong, especially when decisions are locked in so early. Second thing is that I don't have a budget. I don't have any person working above me to constrain what I am going to do here. So I can make anything I want. The last thing is, I don't actually have to make anything because I'm just presenting an idea. All of this is your imagination. Your imagination is so much better of a storyteller than most realistic things are. So, don't get it twisted. This ain't as good as Dawntrail, but if you enjoy what I present here, then good for you. Replace Dawntrail in your mind. Why don't you? I mean, that's what we're here to do. Anyway, what are we fixing? Let's get into it. We are going to start by combining both halves of the expansion. Dawntrail is broken into two different expansions, really. It's like you have the tournament for the Dawn Servant at the start, and then completely separate from it, you have the sequel expansion, which is the fight with Alexandria. Our goal is to interweave both halves of this expansion so that they feel more like one story rather than two different stories stuck back to back. The second thing we're going to do is shift focus away from Tyrol as a location and away from Wuklama as sort of the default character, and we're going to give more to Kryl, we're going to give more to Erenville, and overall we're going to try and make it a more well-rounded experience with more story focus on multiple characters. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to try and clean up the arcs. A lot of the character arcs in Dawntrail get lost. They lack focus, they lack real payoff, and they just sort of like show up because Dawntrail's way too busy. So by cutting back, we're also going to try and clarify what characters go through what arcs and what happens. Now, I can't do this without restrictions. Why? Because it's less interesting that way, and also because if we're trying to remake it, we want to make this good criticism, good critique, a good rewrite, so we have to take into account the things that were limiting factors in the original creation of the expansion. To start off with, I'm going to try and keep the general story structure as is. We're going to have a tournament for Dawn Servant, we're going to have a battle against Alexandria. I'm also going to try and avoid adding new content. New dungeons, new areas, new trials, etc. I don't want to have more cool stuff I can just describe for free. So we're gonna try and keep all of that stuff the same. We're also gonna try and not change the lore too much. I don't really want this to sort of affect a lot of the other content, so we're gonna try and keep the lore relatively the same. You know, a lot of the stuff like tribe quests and the side content, like the raids, those are based loosely on the lore, so we can't really change them too much. We'll change them. Also, we're not going to add any new characters, especially new voiced characters, because the voice budget was already set and all the characters were already hired. What we can change is the order of events. The characters involved in different scenes, the specific events that happen in that scenes, what really goes on in the story. We can also change up the lore. I know I said we wouldn't, but we're gonna, because the lore here is mid at best. And most importantly, we can add up to 5 new pieces of content. I mean, keeping everything exactly as is sort of probably more honest, but I mean, there's so many opportunities to do cool stuff. I'm not gonna not do that. So let's get into it finally. Let's rewrite Dawntrail, starting with the opening minutes. Honestly, the opening of Dawntrail, pretty decent all things considered. The characters step onto the boat and travel across the sea to the new world, to Tyrrell. We meet all of the relevant actors, figure out what the actual plot of the first bit is going to be, get introduced to the trial for the Dawn Servant, get set up for all of the different feats, and then start off by doing the classic early game split and moving into 2 separate areas to save on server load. That makes sense. I think that's really it's a solid opening. You can't really change too much because of the the important server structural side that has to be done to make sure we don't get a repeat of Rub-on Extreme. So the opening is going to stay largely the same. We're gonna cut the twins though. The first big rant I'm gonna have about Dawntrail in this video is the twins. The twins are so bad in Dawntrail. I love the twins. Do not get me wrong. I love the twins, but their presence in the story of Dawntrail it's just sort of wasteful. They're only really there because 1, people like the twins, they're good for marketing, and 2, we need some other combatants to fill out for trust dungeons. We can solve the second problem pretty easily just by being creative, and the first problem exists only because producers are cowards, and they don't think that the new characters can carry it, so we're cutting the twins. They don't have any of their relevant story in the game, so the twins still arrive with us as we enter and cross the sea, but as we meet with the little Jaw at the opening, the twins will decide to stay out of the tournament. Maybe there's a rule, meaning that each team can only have a certain number of assistants. Maybe the twins decide that it's better for them not to get involved, and that we also stay back a little bit. This isn't our country. We can't be expected to win them all, win everything for Wu Clement. So the twins stay back. They're still around. Maybe they'll help administratively, but they're not boots on the ground with the rest of us, and they are distant from the events that happen throughout the first half of the expansion. After our first 2 outings with our first 2 feats, we move on to the Jungle Cruise. After having claimed 2 of the little tokens, our next goal will lie up the river, and since the stairs have been destroyed, it's time for us to travel across the land. Now, this travel is going to be fraught with danger and a dungeon, which means that we are down a couple party members because we cut Alphino and Alice from our initial group. Now, how are we going to replace them here? Well, we're going to make use of a mysterious book-wielding boatman who should have been introduced earlier in the story regardless. That's right, Kettenram, baby! As we travel through Ihuyakutumi, or however you pronounce it. Damn, they spent so much money on these names. we meet a kind boatman named Kettenram, who will guide us up the river. Now, the dungeon plays out largely as follows. We go off from the docks, being dragged by this big river manatee. We are attacked by the cool Jaw, who kicks us off onto the shore. Then we make our way up the shore, eventually getting our path blocked by Koana, with Urianger and Thancred behind, until eventually we make it all the way to the final boss, who we're changing. In Dawntrail, we were initially sold on the ability to fight the Scions, that there would be some inter-Scion conflict, and that largely didn't happen. I think this is probably a classic case of there's not too much happening in the first half, and we don't want to spoil the second half, so we, the marketing guys, are going to play up one element that sort of, kind of exists, but we never really got to fulfill on. And largely the way the story structure works out, we don't and won't get a chance to really fulfill this promise except for here. So while the big bug is cool, we're going to replace it with Urianger and Thancred. As we crest our way to the top of the hill, almost out of the river area, Urianger and Thancred show up with Koana, and Koana says to Wuklamot that she's not ready to be Dawn Servant, and orders Thancred and Urianger to stop us, to prove that we're not ready. Thancred and Urianger classically think this is probably a bad idea, but, you know, why not give it a shot? Test their mettle against the Warrior of Light. They're probably not up to the task, but it's been a bit since they've tried. We have a fun fight. Thancred and Urianger do some cool team-up attacks, maybe end with a Omega M&F style. Thancred throws up a shield as Urianger does a cast, but we win and we laugh it off. All happy-go-lucky. Koana doesn't take this well. He gets pissed off, and as we move on to the next area, things start to change more. Let's get into level 92. Now that we're done with the initial stretch of Dawntrail, now that we've discovered what can change, minimal changes, we're getting into the parts where we're actually going to shift things up pretty decently. We move on to Kozama Uka, the proper second half of the area where we meet the goblins. The first half's already been explored, but now we're in the upper layers, and here we want to change some things. In the initial bit of Dawntrail, this is the area where Wuklamot gets captured by Bakul Jaja, and we go and rescue her. And we're probably going to keep that. As we move in, we have the classic night scene. Koana is going to crash out. Instead of sort of having his realization here with Urianger and Thancred being like, you know, the kind gay dads that they were always meant to be, Koana is going to crash out and fire them. He'll have his revelation later on. We're still going to keep the goblins in the thing, in this rewrite. We're going to change up multiple of the feats, but the goblins are a fine enough feat that we can have them stay. Honestly, they're not great, but they're the ones that I didn't really have a reason to cut. And we do need 7, just because 7's a good number, better than 6, so we're going to keep the goblins in. We'll still have the same basic plot where we go out and grab the merchant, bring him back. That's good for keeping up time so all the characters can get in place. As we're doing the feat, Koana will approach us and confront Wuklamot and reiterate that he doesn't think she's strong enough. And Wuklamot will sort of brazenly disagree. That's her way, isn't it? But soon after, Wuklamot is going to get captured by the bandits who are sent by Bakul Jaja, who are sent by Zeralja. You know, very complicated. This time, though, Thancred and Urianger aren't there to assist with the stealth mission. This time, it's up to us. Koana and we realize Wuklamot's been captured about the same time, and instead of teaming up, Koana is going to break off and try and do some rescue by himself. We see him get his ass beat by some bandits, and we beat them up in turn, leaving him behind as we go on our own stealth mission to rescue Wuklamot. Here's one of the first changes we're going to make. in this one, the mission doesn't end after the stealth section. Instead, we are going to fight all the bandits. We're going to find Bakul Jaja, his posse, and the bandits they hired, and we're going to wipe the floor with them. Bakul Jaja is not a threat to us. The story sort of implies that he might be, or that they try and set him up as it, but we all know that no one in the first half of Dawntrail, not even like Valigarmanda, is really dangerous to us as the Warrior of Light. So in this scenario, I think it's a great opportunity for us to show our strength. Wuklamat's been captured. We wipe the floor with Bakul Jaja, doing everything but killing him. And he runs away with his tail tucked between his legs. Kawana, in this moment, in the aftermath of this, is going to start his process of reflection. Now that he's solidly in the middle, now that he's fully failed, he is going to take a step back. He's still successfully completed the trial with the goblins. He's got his third token, but he is going to take a step back. In the aftermath of rescuing Wuklamat, I think this is the perfect time to start talking about the arcs we have planned for both us, the Warrior of Light, and for Wuklamat. Wuklamat is an interesting character. I think people might be upset that I say that, because people generally dislike Wuklamat, but it's not really her fault. Like, the character is sort of the only one that has anything to do for the first half of Dawntrail, the way it's designed. So we end up spending way too much time with her, and also her role in the first half of Dawntrail isn't really defined. She's the protagonist, but she's also the main POV, but she's also the person with the most story going on, but she's also weak, and she's also strong at some points. It's confused. So let's try and redeem her by clearly defining her role here. Wuklamat's goal is to be Dawn Servant. The end of her arc is her being the Dawn Servant. So when she starts out, she must be lacking the things that make it possible for her to be the Dawn Servant. Those are strength and confidence. Wuklamat thinks that to be Dawn Servant, she needs to be physically strong. She needs a powerful force of arms. But she'll never really be. I mean, she'll get stronger, but her real strength won't come from just being naturally stronger. Her real power is connecting to people, to understand their plight and to empathize with them. And she can draw physical strength from that empathization. And she needs to realize this over the course of the story. Then we have the Warrior of Light. The Warrior of Light comes in and classically acts as the hero. They are the ones that save the day. That's us. We save the day everywhere we walk, and that's good. But the point of Dawntrail is to be a vacation, right? We're here because we shouldn't be saving the day. We can't actually create an entire expansion around us sipping Mai Tais at the beach. That's not gonna work out. So instead, the Warrior of Light is going to get a new role for this expansion. They will not be the hero. We will be the mentor. Throughout Dawntrail, the Warrior of Light is going to act as a teacher, letting Wuklamat try her best to do what she can, and when she fails, we will step in to help her and to pick her back up. We are going to help foster strength within her and teach her how to lead, or at least give her the space that she can learn how she needs to lead. And in this scenario, that dynamic should start. Wuklamat just got captured, just got proven that she was weak, that she lacks the strength of arms that she is convinced will allow her to flourish here. So, what does she do? She comes to us. She comes to the Warrior of Light to ask us how to be stronger. And what are we gonna do? Well, we're gonna train her. I am adding a new solo instance that happens as we begin to leave Kozama Uka. we will take Wuklamat into maybe one of those ruin circles just south of the Goblin Camp, and we're going to have a training battle. Similar to in Endwalker when we face off against Vana, here Wuklamat will face off against us. And I think it's a really interesting reversal of dynamics if we were to do things like challenge Wuklamat. We could throw out different abilities and show her how to do stuff. Maybe we get to attack a dummy at the same time and watch her attack a dummy. Eventually this ends up with Wuklamat learning how to use a limit break, the same way she'll do in her solo instances later. She'll summon the strength within to protect others, and we'll be able to be strong. Now, as we leave Kazama Uka, 3 feats down, 4 left to go, we need to talk about these dang feats. The feats are bad. This is perhaps my least favorite part of Dawntrail. Conceptually, implementation-wise, everything. The feats are boring, repetitive, there are too many of them, and they don't add anything to the expansion. It's pretty clear to me that the feats are designed as an excuse to do what Dawntrail's first half actually wanted to do, which is to have a guided tour of all the different areas in Taral. It seems like they probably came up with all of the different cool areas and then created a story structure that would have us go around to all of them. I mean, think about it. There are 3 areas in the first half of Dawntrail. We go to each of them, do 2 feats there, plus 1 for the trial. It's crazy how linear this makes the story, how uninspired and uninteresting it makes it. And can I just say, like, the feats don't even matter? Like, the tablets that we get, you can't fail the feats because somehow, like, there's no penalty for it, for failing. Like, you know, in the original Dawntrail, Zeralja and Bakul Jaja team up for the feat of Riposte, and they both fail, and they just go on like nothing happens, and it doesn't matter that they failed. The point of the feats should be that you have to succeed, and once you fail at the feat, I think the implication should be that your only option is to claim the token from someone else, which is a lot more interesting than whatever is going on in Dawntrail originally. We're cutting some feats. We're cutting down a few of them, and we're moving them to later on. We're also going to make it so that the feats deteriorate, that the competition falls apart about halfway through. Why are we going to do that? Well, so that things stay interesting. Hold on. I think I've cooked here. You'll see. So, we leave Kazama Uka. Wuklamat is stronger, inspired to be a leader, and we head all the way to not the second half of Urgapacha, but instead, we're heading to Yaktael, and more specifically, to Mamuk. Here is where the feats, this competition that we've been a part of, is going to fully fall apart. First things first, we are entirely skipping the feat of Riposte. Honestly, this element of the story doesn't really add anything to anything. Like, okay, Wuklamat is a princess, there's tension between these cat people and the Mamulja. I guess it kind of gives context for why Bakul Jaja is the way he is and like why they do the baby murder thing, but come on, we get all of that when we're in Mamuk, so we don't really need the feat of Riposte. I don't need to spend half a level setting up something for the Gatherer tribe quest later down the line. Instead of doing the feat of Riposte, we'll enter straight into Mamuk. Here, the 4 aspirants are finally going to meet up fully. Zeralja has gone on ahead and is the first in line to take on the next feat, where we will have to fight the ghost of Galul Jaja. Zeralja, our purple prince, will take the stage first, and he is going to lose. This is going to destroy him, as it does in the original Dawntrail. But here, he'll take it equally as hard. Honestly, the way Zraja loses is fine in the original Dawntrail. After Zraja goes, Bakul Jaja is going to go, and, well, he's gonna try and cheat. We all know Bakul Jaja isn't strong enough to face this trial and win. In the original, he doesn't even have to, because we are already forgiven him for freeing Valagarmanda and all of that. You know, we'll get to Valagarmanda. But Bakul Jaja will attempt the trial and try and cheat with his dad. But he's gonna get caught or fail. I think, ideally, Bakul Jaja will try and fail, but his dad is going to intercede at the last moment, stopping the trial, saying something went wrong, and say that they need to regroup and retry. At this moment, Kettenram will show up as a examiner, or at least as a mediator for the exam, and we're going to have a pause for a moment until the truth of what happened can be revealed. This gives us and the rest of the group time to go off and look around. We are going to do the second half of the trial. The trial for Dawn Servant is initially pitched as two different aspects. One, we must gain the approval of all of the different tribes. And two, we have to find the City of Gold. Now, in the original story, the City of Gold element of this is kind of dropped because the City of Gold is actually living memory, which exists in another dimension, and we only get to see like a portal to it. And that's fine. I think it's a cool reveal that living memory is something different. It's something far away. And the way it actually turns out is neat. But it doesn't stop the fact that it really undercuts like 90% of the legs of the first half of Dawntrail when the reveal of the City of Gold is so far removed from what we're actually doing. So instead, I think part of the inspiration, part of the process of doing the trials should be looking through the histories and trying to find the City of Gold as something not necessarily entirely aligned with the trials. In the first two trials, we are introduced to the ancient history of the Yakui. They were big giants who built a bridge and eventually went across to the other half of the continent, got sick, and became short. The reason they built the bridge, it is implied, is that they started to see visions of something, or dreams of something, while they were mining in the forest of Yaktel. Here, we are going to follow up on that thread. Once people are denied, once the trial here falls apart and is postponed, we are going to go off into the forest and look for the secrets hidden therein. This is going to start with us meeting Mumulja lady. The same lady who in the original sort of brings us around to talk about the different Mumulja people and introduce us to the baby murder pit. We're still going to probably do that. I think it's a good enough excuse for the Mumulja to be angsty. So as we go around and start meeting with the Mumulja and trying to learn about the history, we'll also get the hesitancy of them only wanting Bakul Jaja to win because he is their chosen baby that didn't die in the baby murder death pit. As we move deeper in, this woman will lead us to the Cenote. As we get our trail, as we find the hint of the secrets of the past of this ancient place, this Mumulja will bring us there somewhat hesitantly, and when we arrive, she'll point it out and push us in. This is a betrayal. We are going to get betrayed by the Mumulja and tossed into the Cenote. Now, in this, I don't think the Cenote should be the baby death pit. we have other places where that could be. We can just put it at like the big ash tree up top. I think that's equally as fine. I just don't. It's just everything being in the cenote is it's just a little bit much. Also, we don't want to talk about the cenote here, but we want to do the cenote. That's right. Once we reach level 93, it's time for our next dungeon, which in this scenario is going to be the Sky Deep Cenote. Once we are pushed into the hole, our group of four, Kryl, Wuklamot, Erenville, and us, are sort of left here. We don't have any really way to escape because we can't fly, and we have to look around to figure out what's going on. Fortunately, there's this big magic door that clearly is a point of interest. While we're messing about around here, Erenville is going to move around to try and discover what's going on, and when he does, he'll find a weird robot buried in the ground. Not too ancient, but the technology seems to be rusty. He'll manage to activate it, and we'll get our new dungeon companion for this dungeon, and probably someone who will stick by Erenville's side for the rest of the expansion. An Outrunner. Yep, one of the same little goofy emoji robots that we meet later on. In this case, we're going to get introduced to it really early, and it's going to follow Erenville around, as he'll be its new master. Kryl will, using her pendant, or maybe just her natural ability to be smart, open up the sealed gate that leads deeper into the cenote, and we will begin the dungeon. It'll proceed as normal, delving deeper and getting more electropy as we go, starting off with, weird rayfish down into these weird ancient Aztec statues until we finally get all the way down and get the full electro view at the last level. Once we finish, Kryl will take a moment to decode the history of this place from the walls. She'll wonder about why she was able to access it, what special about her that let her open this door, and she'll make a connection with the pendant, a thing that will only create more questions. As we finish up, Kettenram will show up, having gotten an alert that someone opened this ancient sealed vault. He'll reveal the truth of his identity and give an abridged version of how this is the location that led Galul Jaja to start his quest in the first place. He'll tell us a story of how Galul first discovered this place, how it led on him on his journey to meet all of the other people of Tural as he went and discovered the history therein. And this story will inspire Wuklamot, making her more confident in herself and her ability to succeed. We will escape above, ready to take on the next of the trials. I'm going to take a brief pause here to talk about the history. This is so the lore of the Cenote doesn't really make sense. It's sort of glazed over, but there's just this big well in the middle of the forest with a big portal that looks directly into living memory, and that's the City of Gold. But why is it there like that? There's just this big, why is there a big portal there? What's going on with all of this? Because Vader revealed that there's like dimensional fusion, and that makes sense, but why is there this big portal here? You know, it doesn't really matter to the story of Dawntrail originally, but I think I'm going to rewrite it here so it makes a little bit more sense to me, and because I think it sets up for a much more interesting moment down the line, especially if we haven't completed the main arc of the trials by level 95. So, the new history of the Cenote. Long ago, early Alexandrians were experimenting with dimensional fusion using their key. They began by making a hidden base here where they would practice doing dimensional fusion forward and backward. Eventually, the Yakuy, the current rulers at the time they were doing these experiments, will discover what was going on and attack. The Alexandrians here in the base are driven out. They Some of them close the portal, while the rest of them are forced to flee across Tyrol, probably in their flying devices, and only manage to fully escape once they cross to the continent to the north. The Yakui will chase them. Having seen their power, the Yakui will be afeared, and this will inspire them to create the massive bridge, which now sits in Tuliolal. As the Yakui cross over, they eventually get a disease, probably something from the Outworlders instead of from just the people to the other continent of them, and will force the Alexandrians to retreat, closing the gate in the new base they make to the north. Many, many years later, after the Cenote has been long sealed, Galul Jaja, the ambitious young two-headed Mamulja, will rediscover the Cenote, opening the door using his powerful magic. There, he'll find the hints about this old ancient people and decide that this is a good excuse to go and leave on a journey. This inspires him to go retrace the history of the ancient Yakui and of the path trod by these ancient Outworlders as they traveled all the way to the north and reestablished their base. This is the impetus for him reuniting many of the people of Tyrol and forming a new empire. Finally, many years after Galul Jaja did this and reactivated the main gateway that was initially set up in the first base, the one in the Cenote, reactivates as Kryle's parents escape and bring her with them. Since the area here has been reactivated, they understand that they have to go back and close it off because they don't want to be followed. So they turn back, leaving Kryle here, and attempt to deactivate the portal, turning it to view-only mode, and without the key in the possession of the people of Alexandria, they can't reopen it, closing off this place for good. Until, of course, one ambitious, blue-skinned Mamulja rediscovers the key and is able to communicate with the view-only portal. Anyway, this change allows for a few interesting things. One, it changes Galul Jaja's final goal to be further north. Two, it gives a little bit more information about why Alexandria shows up where it shows up. And three, it gives us more of a hint for a story, for a quest that will lead us throughout far more of the expansion than what we initially get. Now, at level 94, having completed the dungeon, we'll head back to Mamulja, to Mamook, and get ready to fight Bakul Jaja in his shade. Returning to the forest above, we'll find the Mamulja woman who pushed us down in the first place. Here, re-inspired by her own tales of her father, Muklamat will be able to rediscover her connections with her father. She'll be able to rediscover her own inner strength through being inspired by the story of her father. She'll empathize with this woman who will lead us up to the true location of the big baby murder place, which is this large ashen tree. She'll tell us that she betrayed us for the sake of Bakul Jaja and the hope of the Mamulja, even as misguided as that hope is. We'll then befriend this Mamulja and start to turn them back towards a brighter path. Muklamat will use the power of friendship, which, is important in this type of story, to start to correct the fallacies of the really fucked up parts of Mamulja culture. We'll head back down as the feats restart, and this time we'll win. Bakul Jaja will try and face it alone and lose, and still unsure of her ability to win. Wuklamat will propose a team-up with the still-in-the-race Kawana. We will team up, it not being against the rules, and despite the grumpy Mabulja leaders' protestations, Kettenram being there says this is exactly in the spirit of the trial, and overrule him, allowing us to take it on as a group. We win, and are given the tickets, the tokens. This means that the two failures in the... That means that there are two failures in the feats, that Bakul Jaja and Zeralja are out unless they can steal our trophy and win. That is the only hope left to them now, that they can fight us and take what we have earned and they have failed to earn. We take some rest, carousing with the Mulja as their structural of society has been turned, and at this point, we cut to a new scene where Bakul Jaja is going to get a talking to from his dad. And his dad will say that there is still hope for him to win the throne. A darker, more dangerous hope. And we move on to the next trial. Kawana will try to talk with us. He wants to surrender because he's sort of come to his own revelations that he isn't really fit to rule, and that he too has been inspired by Wuklamat to do what he can, and that his vision is flawed. But Wuklamat, heedless as ever, bowls past him, and he doesn't get a good chance to surrender. We head to the next trial, which is in the mountains of Urkapacha. Now, this is getting closer to the finale of the expansion. Well, the first half of the expansion. Originally, the finale happens down in Yaktel with the fight against Bakul Jaja, but come on, guys. If we're having two expansions, let's have two expansions. All of our players are in the right place. Now, we just need to see how things turn out. We arrive at the mountain and start doing the trial. Here we'll learn a little bit more about the history, probably led on an inquest by Kryl. We'll discover some ancient technology that reacts with her pendant stolen from the Alexandrians, though we still haven't gotten the full picture of that whole part yet. At the same time, Kawana will reconnect with the Unks, he'll reconnect with Thancred and Ryanje, and he'll get ready to, surrender after having a nice, good conversation. While we're looking around in the graveyard, Bakul Jaja is going to show up, and we're going to beat him up because he's weak. He's going to say that this was his last hope, that this was his only chance, that he has to win. He'll try and steal our thing, but fail to do so, and in his failure, we watch him run away. Wuklamat will try and reach out to him, understanding the pressure he's under with the whole being the only living person at the big baby death pit, but he'll be unresponsive to this plea at this point in time. As we investigate more, we find out our answers of the past, but as we find out the answers and finish this part of the trial, Bakul Jaja gets desperate, and he makes his move. In the same way that happens in the original Dawntrail, Bakul Jaja will summon the power and undo the binding placed upon Valgarmanda by Galul Jaja many decades prior, and the great beast will be free once more to roam the skies and rule the land. That's right, we're at level 95, the last bit of the first half of Dawntrail, and it's time for a finale of sorts. If Dawntrail's broken into two, we're going to have two finales. Let's give this finale the full what for. We'll start at Workhorse Ormar. With Valgarmanda free, we have to chase him to the top of the mountain. Bakul Jaja at this point has made alliances with the evil red Yakui, who sort of want a return to their old empire, and they've both been convinced that if we can let Valgarmanda out and stop it, well, the red Yakui just want Valgarmanda to wreak havoc, while Bakul Jaja thinks that if he can release it quietly, let it kill all the people who realize that he released it, and then go and be the one to save it, that he'll be Dawn's servant. That this will be the thing that boosts him all the way to the top. But that's foolish, as we all know. We all rush towards the top of the mountain where Valgarmanda has moved to regain its power. This will ensue the power. From this, we'll get to the dungeon. Morkor's armor, which will play out largely as it does in the original. We start off climbing up. We probably won't have Zeralja and all the other people messing with us midway through. I think that's annoying. It's not annoying. We just don't need it. It's not really part of the story anymore. We'll head all the way up to the top. This time, the final boss will be the leader of the Imperialist Yakui, the big red guy. I think there's no changes here. The boss is fine otherwise. And in this moment, we'll all get to the top. Kawana will catch up. Actually, Kawana will be with us the entire time. We can add extra people to the party for the trust. It's fine. We don't even need to have the core 4. But with Kawana at the top, he is going to confess that he thinks Wuklamot is the better claimant to the Dawn Servant, that he doesn't have the ability to inspire hope in others that he imagined he was capable of, and that his belief that knowledge will see everything right is foolish, and that he needs to be a more personable person. Kawana will then break away to help defend us as the rest of the party moves further on. This process will repeat with Kryl and Erenville leaving as they move off, probably to fight the big bird that we defeat halfway through. It will re-show up, and eventually that will leave just the Warrior of Light and Wuklamot to climb to the peak. There we encounter Bakul Jaja, who is trying to go and approach Valgarmanda, but can't even get close. He's having a breakdown, trying to justify his actions, saying that he's going to be the one to be the hero here, and that others should have to sacrifice like he and his people have. Wuklamot will confront him in this, confronting his really bad belief system and fighting against him solo, leaving us to go fight Valgarmanda. This is where we'll have Wuklamot's solo instance against Bakul Jaja. We'll jump, they'll fight us, and we'll eventually get jumped by all of the other sort of regressionist Mamulja, who will all put their hopes in Bakul Jaja, and Wuklamot will face them all and win, proving herself to be the hero. Here, they'll all despair after being beaten, knowing that it doesn't matter because Valgarmanda, once he regains his full power, will destroy everything regardless, and Wuklamot will say no, she'll deal with it, she and her friend, and she'll run off to help. We're fighting Valgarmanda alone, baby. In the original, the whole everybody teams up except for Bakul Jaja to fight Valgarmanda is neat, but doesn't really serve to make the story better. And now that Valgarmanda here is the final boss of the first half of Dawntrail, having everybody be there to fight him doesn't really make sense. So Valgarmanda is now a solo instance. It plays out the same. We can still get the call. We just use the crystal to call and fight him. We summon all of our guys from the Rift. The one change we make here is that 3/4 of the way through, in the same way that happens against Queen Eternal, Wuklamot is going to pop up in a cutscene and try and fight Valgarmanda. After having beaten Bakul Jaja, she thinks she's strong enough, and she jumps into the Eye of the Storm, gets like one solid blow in, but then gets knocked away. We win. I mean, it's Valgarmanda. He's like not even as hard as a primal. This is what we do for a living. Everybody celebrates, and Wook is hailed as a hero, though she is less than enthused at her own performance in the last bit. She still holds on to her belief that her own strength, her own individual strength, is largely part of the reason that she deserves to be Dawn Servant, regardless of what has been proven with her actions so far. As the only remaining contestant who still pursues the trials, she, and the one who defeat Valagarmonda, or at least is held responsible for it, Wuklamot, is hailed as a hero and Bee's elected Dawn Servant. The tournament closes early as everybody cheers on, and we return to Tuliolal to celebrate Wuklamot and to have her be elected as Dawn Servant. As we return, Galul Jaja is arrested. Galul Jaja is arrested. And is brought into custody. He should obviously have been arrested. I think that's crazy that they just sort of let him stick around for a couple more trials after unleashing what is literally an apocalyptic scenario on the place he lives. Galul Jaja will reveal that his second head is dead. He will later speak with Kryl about the different stuff, and we'll get a full view of where Kryl came from and what happened. Before he reveals the whole truth of the City of Gold, Wuklamot will instead stop him, saying that she doesn't want to hear it and she's going to leave. Outside, we talk to her and she tells us that she doesn't feel adequate to the role she's been given. She feels like an imposter who relied too much on us and our strength, especially in defeating Valagarmonda. And she decides that she is going to cross the bridge and finish the last two trials and to try and find the City of Gold on her own. Then, as she confesses this to us, Kryl and Erenville will approach and say that they too want to go out and finish this quest. Kryl says she wants to find the full truth of where her parents come from and where she comes from, and Erenville says that he still needs to find the City of Gold to make his mentor proud. So, we get to the halfway point. At this point, we have sort of a complete story that still leaves characters' arcs open. Our core 4, including us, each have a reason to move on, and we get to move into the second half of Dawntrail, rather than with everything cleaned up, with much things cleaned up, and with much more to go. Let's talk about where our characters are at so far. Wuklamot, her arc. Let's start with Wuklamot. Her arc is learning to be a leader. That her true strength lies in her ability to connect with and empathize with people, and that she can draw combat strength from that empathization. When she cares and when she's fighting for others, she is as strong as anyone. So far, she's learned to harness her strength, but she still feels unfit. She's still chasing an ideal of someone better that she sees as better than herself instead of embracing her own strengths. She's capable of reaching, but hasn't fully realized what she is and where her strengths lie. So far, her key moments have been asking for help from us, forgiving and making connections with the Mamulja, defeating Bakul Jaja, and failing to fight Valagarmonda. She's on the precipice of being a good leader. She could be elected Dawn Servant now and serve the role fine, but without realizing her own internal strength, without catalyzing it, she will only ever be a pale imitation of the person she chases after. The Warrior of Light, our archetypal strongest hero, has been tasked this expansion with helping others and protecting them so they can grow. So far, we're goated. We've protected Wuklamot, we've mentored a bunch of people, we've discovered secrets, all of that stuff. But we still may need to take a step back more. With us defeating Valagarmonda, though that was the right choice, we've also stunted Wuklamot in her ability to fully actualize. So we have to realize that it can't just be us. But that's fine. We have half an expansion more to go. Our key moments so far are saving Wuklamot from the bandits, training Wuklamot, and defeating Valagarmonda. Kryl, and by extension Erenville. I haven't talked about them too much so far, and that's probably a failing on the writing. Again, the story doesn't give them much to do, but so far, Imagine in each scenario, whenever some random character has dialogue, instead of Bouclemont always responding to it, we have Kryl and Erenville responding to it. They've each had their own moments in the story, more so than they got in the original Dawntrail. But realistically, the best thing we can do for them is not to rewrite the story so that they have arcs that they can do in the first half, but to rewrite the story so that their arcs are set up in the first half, and that they have interesting moments where they just get to speak more, where they have more interactions with us, with Bouclemont, with each other, and by cutting away Alphino and Alice in the beginning, hopefully that gives us the chance for that to happen. Kryl's arc is about trying to find her purpose in the place she comes from, and discovering herself and where she belongs in this world. So far, she's found traces of a past more grand than she imagined, but also has found herself connected to all sorts of people. In going through the different areas and meeting the different tribes, she has been an integral part in leading others to connecting, and that connection that she finds reflects back on her own, as she feels, probably rightly, that she doesn't really belong anywhere, that she had, not that she doesn't belong in the Scions, of course she belongs in the Scions, we love Kryl, she's a short little queen, but that she hasn't really been included in the same way, that she hasn't really shown the same strength as others throughout our journeys and the other expansions. She now starts to feel like she matters, which is the important thing. That once she feels like she matters, like she feels like she has a home, then later on, when she confronts her parents, when she finds the full truth of her past, she can realize that she had a home all along. Her key moments so far have been talking with the different tribes, discovering the secrets of the Cenote, and pressing for the reveal of her history, discovering much about Alexandria and the history of it on this plane. Then we come to Erenville. Erenville, likewise, hasn't had too many interesting moments that I've written out explicitly, but him being more an integral part of a smaller cast gives him more moments to talk and do things, which is most of what he needs for the first half. Erenville's arc is about proving himself to his mother and discovering that he was already enough. Progress, the stuff he's progressed through so far, he has explored a continent, helped elect a ruler, he has grown far closer to getting to the City of Gold. He's done so much, but he still thinks that's not enough. He still doubts that his mom loves him just for trying rather than achieving results. He's achieved the results, done everything but find the City of Gold, but he still thinks he's not good enough because he hasn't found the City of Gold. Our key moments so far for him are advising Bouclemont in all of her many moments of indecision, discovering the robot in the Cenote, which will come back for a very good moment later, and finding the path to the City of Gold through decoding the different stuff in the Cenote and finding different stuff in the ancient Yakuy graveyard. Now we come to part 2. Yay, only an hour in, and we've just reached part 2 of Dawntrail. Fortunately, the second half of Dawntrail is so much better than the first. We don't need to change that much more stuff. Dawntrail's second half is a full and complete story that only really suffers because it's slotted into half of an expansion instead of a full one. It has character growth, interesting changes, cool enemies, and honestly, if we had more of the second half of Dawntrail and less of the first and the original, I think people would be a lot less upset about what Dawntrail ended up being. What this means for me is that instead of going level by level, going through every moment, I don't have to. I can just go through only a very few specific moments and changes that I want to highlight or reveal for the second half of Dawntrail. We get to change a few things and then give the payoff to the setup that I've laid out earlier on in my rewrite. Let's start with the trains. We all go to Cenote, but not just to mess around. This time, we're trying to complete the feat that we missed. We meet with the leader of the Cenote people, and they ask us to help fix the train. It's like the normal train stuff. I really love how in this section, Istinian just shows up normally. He's like, His mogging is crazy. I love Estinian. So we end up fixing the trains the way we normally do. And eventually they get sent off, and the massive lightning orb appears, and Tulialal gets invaded. This happens largely the same as in Dawntrail. Earlier on, we see Zeralja meeting in front of a mirror, though this time it is not the same place that we've already seen, but instead a different place with a much larger portal. He uses the key to step through, and now after our little stint in Cenote, he invades with his army of Alexandrians. Bakul Jaja is, in this timeline, Bakul Jaja gets freed up from prison, because he is in prison. Instead of fleeing or breaking down, he finally steps up. He puts himself on the line and fights the robots, eventually earning not freedom, but a extended service to the Landsguard. I think that's probably a much better outcome for him than him just being, you know, free and then just doing it of his own accord. If you really just need to be punished, like, it just doesn't make sense diegetically, verisimilitudinously, for him to just be out there. But I do like the way he ends up in the actual Dawntrail, so we just changed this to make it so he does what he has to do. Wuklamat here is late to show up because she's coming with us. And when she sees Zeralja having killed Galul Jaja, her mentor, her father, the goal to which she aspires to, she swears vengeance against Zeralja. This is sort of the new catalyst. Well, not the new catalyst. This is the catalyst for Wuklamat's arc in the second half of Dawntrail originally. But here, I just want to highlight what this means for Wuklamat as a character. So far, Wuklamat has been doing everything to prove herself to be a leader. To prove herself to be not just the leader that Tural needs, but to be the image of her father. Every step she'll measure herself against what her father has done. Her goal here, even after gaining the ovation of everybody in her country by being part of defeating Valagarmanda, is that she still wants to finish the journey her father took. That's how she'll prove that she's ready to lead. And here, Bakul Jaja is slain in front of her and she couldn't do anything about it. The other character who's been chasing their father is Zeralja. Zeralja also feels he has to live up to the example of Galul Jaja. But in him, it turns sour. His feeling of being destined to live up to this example turns him into a monster, a robot who eventually kills his father. And now Wuklamat and Zeralja are united. Zeralja has turned into the dark imitation of what he believed his father was, a warmonger, a profiteer. And Wuklamat has turned in this moment away from being the person her father was so proud of when he elected her as Dawn Servant. Wuklamat has now become bitter and twisted, and her growth here has been set back by vowing vengeance instead of trying to live up to her fullest potential. Finally, the last thing we need to change here in this moment is that Kryal is the one who calls up the Scions. As we all chill, we see Kryal step away, and as the aftermath is cleaned up, eventually Kryal will rejoin us, and all of the Scions will show up, not in this moment, including Alphino, Alice, and the rest, but it was Kryal who called upon her family. And this is important to Kryal, who has spent the whole expansion chasing after the shadow of her family. It's important for her to be the one to call the Scions, because the truth is the Scions are her real family. She used to have the students of Baldessian, but they're largely gone now, and it just leaves Kryal, and Kryal has felt disconnected from the Scions because she hasn't felt like she's stepped up. But here, being on the verge of reuniting with her old family and finding the truth of her past, her decision and her impetus to call upon her real family, that makes so much of a difference in her story for this expansion. Now, this isn't really like an improvement to the story, but I just think that the train bomb seems fine. We go and we get the train bomb, we blow a hole in Vanguard. That's cool. But, you know, it would make it cooler if we made this into a fun solo instance, instead of just having there be a cutscene where we fight off a bunch of the robots. We just do the same mechanics as the mech fight from Tataru's Grand Endeavor. You know, that side, there's one side quest that you might have done that happened in Endwalker during Tataru's Grand Endeavor, where we get into a mech and there's like an active time event in the middle of a cutscene, but not during like an instance. I just think that would be cool to add here. It would add a little bit more zhuzh to a scene that I think that doesn't necessarily need it, but definitely could use it. This is just for me, okay? This is just for me. I get one for me. This is one's for me. Now, we make it into Alexandria. This is the location where the last trial would have been, but things have gotten so distant from that. As we arrive here in Alexandria, Aaronville, who still has his little robot guy, is going to realize that the robot is acting strange. It starts acting up, and as we meet Sphene, it freaks out and tries to drag us away from her. It turns out that as we've entered the dome, the robot has been taken over by Kafkiwa, who got the idea to hack into this specific helper bot by hearing how Aaronville had one as a companion from the person who went in the last train over to this area before the dome closed. How she got the idea from him having that, which I think it's not really a paradox considering it's in linear time, but it's basically a time travel paradox, and I think that's really cool. And also having Aaronville have the robot that his mother can inhabit already is really cool. It has a great little bit of world building, really fulfills it, and now Kafkiwa has joined the party. We continue on with the rest of part 2 as normal. You know, we find out what's going on in Alexandria. We end up talking with the Lulja. We meet up with Oblivion. All of this stuff happens. Eventually, things get worse. We fight off. We get some information on what's going on with Zeralja, and as we're about to head up towards the top of the tower and do orogenics to fight Zeralja and his trial, we get a quiet moment. This is something I really want to add to Wuklamot's story here. Before heading to orogenics, Wuklamot is going to run off. This time, she'll end up in a new area, a hidden cave past Oblivion's base. This cave reveals a large, sort of ancient by comparison to the area we're seeing, but still somewhat futuristic, electrope city. Well, not really a city, but like the shell of one. I think we don't even need to have this be a fully explorable area, just like a skybox. Just like a skybox that lingers here. We have the City of Gold extending before us as a massive portal, the one that Zeralja originally used to step back into this world, stands in front of us, looking into living memory again. Here, Wuklamot finds at the end the place her dad ended his journey, the place where the story that he originally intended for her to find ends. This is the location of the end of the trials. This is where she would have ended up at the end of everything if the plan had gone to moment. And here she is, beaten, haggard. Her father is dead, and she's here to seek revenge. She's here to find something that is not herself, and she breaks down. Here she confronts her own weakness, her desire for revenge, her lack of self-confidence, her lack of strength, and she realizes, in the words of her father, that she was always strong, that her strength comes from her own ability to empathize with people. She's here so concerned with what's going on with the people of Alexandria, with getting revenge and all of this, and she realizes where her own strength lies. And as she realizes this, we come forward and we greet her after having realized this, and she'll pick up her axe and lead us towards Origenics, towards confronting the same weakness she almost found in herself in Zeralja, and eventually putting him to rest. There's still some more stuff we gotta do. Entering living memory. It should be Kryl who activates the portal. Just like solo Kryl. She'll find the technology. She'll use her key. She'll use her understanding that she's been building about the ancient technology to get us into the portal. After we beat Zeralja, the same thing could happen where Sphene takes the key and closes down the normal portal, and instead we head back to the Cenote and we use the same portal that was abandoned long ago. Kryl has figured out at this point how to reactivate it and does it by herself. I know Y'shtola has like the whole being a portal person thing, but this should be solely Kryl's moment. She gets the ideas on how to activate it from the buried portal that we find in the previous scene with Uklamat, as she synthesizes the two technologies together and discovers that when her parents had left, that in the portal that she reactivates, they left a message for her. And she doesn't share it with everyone because I don't think she needs to, but she finds a message. Very heartwarming. And so we go to the end, into the last bit, the living memory, where the arcs for Kryl and Erenville will conclude, and the arcs for everyone else as well. Here, we'll see the final moments of Kryl and Erenville. Their final moments of their stories, their particular arcs, come to full fruition. Kryl, in one of the areas, finds her parents, hoping that they would tell her of her home. Instead, they say that they always hoped she would find her own home. They are proud of her, and as she talks to them, she realizes that her place has and will always be with the Scions, that she's been searching for a home all this time, for the place that she actually belonged, but that she made the place she belonged, and she realized that she is worthy of standing beside the rest of us, that she is strong enough to do so. Erenville will step in and there find his mother, who he has learned is an endless. He, still despairing at this, still losing hope that he would ever get her approval, meets with her and they talk. She recounts how in life she saw his exploits through the memories of the bot he traveled beside, and that she is proud of what he did, and that she was always proud of what he had done. He realizes that his mother always loved him, and that he didn't need to find the City of Gold to earn her love, that he earned her love regardless, and that she thinks he is worthwhile. Then we come to our final confrontation with Sphene. Uklamat here is determined to try and redeem Sphene, but cannot do so as Sphene is endless. Uklamat has, throughout the course of this expansion, come to a lot of moments where she is initially betrayed by someone, then comes to understand them. This is what she does here. Not just with the Mamulja or with Galul Jaja, but here also with Sphene. Uklamat will take a moment to understand what Sphene truly wants, and to understand that the only way to help her is to stop her. And with that determination, without the hate and vengeance she has felt for this half of the expansion, she will determine to, out of the goodness of her heart and out of the empathy she feels, help Sphene. During the fight, as with Valgarmanda and as in normal Dawntrail, Uklamat breaks in and will confront Sphene one-on-one, but here her strength is enough. She is confident in herself, in her ability to do what she will, and she is confident that she is helping Sphene, and with her empathy and compassion, she is strong enough to change the course of the fight. We win, the Endless are slain, and the Mesoterminal deactivates. And so, we end. We come to the end of Dawntrail. Everything is settled. I mean, Alexandria is still kind of messed up, fucky place, but Taral is safe, and we can deal with Alexandria later. Wuklamot has self-actualized and finally feels like she is ready to take up a position as Dawn Serpent. Prowl and Erenville have found themselves and grown into more full and complete people, realizing where their strengths lie and that their initial goals and their initial thoughts were already resolved. The Warrior of Light has had a chill vacation with only really a minor threat to deal with. We hadn't really been pushed this whole time. We've also had a moment to relax and not be the one to save the world, but instead to boost our student to do so. But there's still one thing missing in this vacation expansion, and that's friends. The last scene of the expansion should be us returning to Tuliolal with all of the Scions now gathered and the threat at its close, and have a massive celebration where we get to see all of the different Scions having their moments exploring Tuliolal, and we get to have just a nice, happy ending where everyone explores the city, Smile plays, and the expansion ends. And so ends a Dawntrail rewritten. I hope you enjoyed this. I had a good time talking about it. Honestly, I've been thinking about my ways to rewrite Dawntrail for a long time. If you made it all the way through the end, I'll just want you to know that I deeply appreciate doing this. This was for me, but if you enjoyed it, I'm happy you got to enjoy it as well. Dawntrail is a messy expansion. Its story is full of all of these missed opportunities and obvious compromises made because the initial story was not the most important part during development. But there were things here that could be done, given more time, given hindsight, and given the ability for me to just make use of your imagination to make it better. And going forward, I think this is probably the Dawntrail I'll imagine when I go back in my own head and remember it. Nothing I've changed should affect things going forward, so I can just choose to remember it this way that I want to. If you enjoyed, thank you for watching all of this, and take it easy. It's a long road out there. Elden out.